In a constant struggle between his American and Taiwanese backgrounds as a child, award-winning food author Frankie Gaw wanted nothing more than to fit in with his classmates in the Midwest. But as he figured out what it means to be Asian American, he was caught between homemade dumplings and Costco hot dogs. Now in his debut cookbook, First Generation, Gaw writes of family memories and self-discovery while sharing recipes rooted in Taiwan, as well as those influenced by the American culinary dream. We visited him in his home state of Ohio.
I usually do like size of a ping pong ball.
Food has always been folded into family for Frankie Gaw.
Did you see my fold?
Oh yeah, that's like our family fold.
Yeah.
He and his mother continue the tradition today. Generations huddled around the kitchen island.
What kind of dumpling flavors did Grandma make?
This one.
Now the food author is sharing his family's recipes for home-style cooking, along with dishes influenced by his Midwestern roots. What was it like growing up in Ohio?
I basically grew up in my house as a Taiwanese family, but then outside was very much my American upbringing.
Even when Gaw left, eventually landing on the West Coast, a sense of home beckoned. The now 31-year-old was at the top of the tech industry in his 20s, helping design Facebook Live before starting a food blog. Its title, Little Fat Boy, inspired by a loving family nickname.
I knew I wanted to celebrate the food from my family and do it in a way that almost like I would approach it from like a product perspective. So to me, the product was this food that I grew up with that I hadn't really seen that much in food media.
What began as a way to document his family's recipes quickly found a following. Combining his design and photography skills, Gaw's showcase of Taiwanese home cooking won Saveur's Blog of the Year award in 2019. So this is the dough?
This is the dough.
It's not just ingredients that are featured,
Once you pull it, it'll divide it, so then you'll be able to pull it apart.
but also technique.
That's great.
Skills he passed along to me.
Did I make this too long?
No, so you can you can pull it apart here. And, yeah,
But the food Gaw now celebrates was once the source of embarrassment.
not perfect.
You used to be ashamed of these dishes, so much so that you would never bring them to school.
Yeah. I wanted to very much fit in within my American upbringing, and because I was one of the only Asians like within school, I already stood out.
Gaw describes emulating classmates as a way of social survival, including when his dad sent him on a camping trip with Taiwanese scallion pancakes.
But then as soon as you got on that trip, you threw it away.
Yeah, he made me a batch of pancakes that he was like, you can cook these at the campfire, it would be super cool. And I just like tossed them in the trash because I was like, there's no way I'm gonna cook these very foreign scallion pancakes in front of all of my friends who aren't Asian. It's funny now because like, I would want to make that dish over and over for all my friends today because it's just so delicious.
Instead, his lunches were a kaleidoscope of American junk food.
I would get Gushers and fruit roll-ups and Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Like these
went
are all
in.
I went all in on like the Midwest like greatest hits, and that was my identity. And I still love those foods just as much as I loved my Taiwanese foods. They were, I think, at that time just very much in their own like different worlds, and I never let them kind of cross paths.
That is, until now. Gaw's deeply personal cookbook, First Generation, features traditional Taiwanese dishes like ramen noodles drizzled in a mix of ginger and garlic peanut sauce, alongside creative innovations that reflect his childhood. Gaw's Chinese sausage corn dogs pay homage to the Costco ones he'd microwave after school.
This is a very distinct flavor.
It has this interesting mix of feeling like you're at a carnival in Ohio and eating at dim sum. So
There's also chili crisp and honey roasted chicken,
yeah, go for it.
and butternut squash and pork dumplings,
What are you making, Popo?
alongside pearl meatballs like his grandmother made.
Making rice meatballs. Oh, the rice is sticky, sweet, glutinous rice. The filling is a pork and cabbage, very traditional filling with gingers and scallion.
This is delicious.
Gaw's Cincinnati chili with hand-pulled noodles are topped with Parmesan cheese. Their flavors, cumin, cinnamon, and even unsweetened chocolate. The inspiration, one of Ohio's best-known dishes, skyline chili. This is one of Cincinnati's most famous restaurants.
Yeah, this is a Cincinnati staple. They're known for their chili.
Our order, the four-way.
Thank you very much.
Ah, look at that.
Oh my gosh.
There's so much cheese.
A lot of cheese.
Spaghetti topped with chili, onions, and yes, plenty of cheese.
This like became our family's tradition. I feel like one of our first like truly American traditions that we kind of adopted into our own family.
You came to Skyline Chili a lot with your dad.
Yeah, this was one of his favorite places to go. He always got the chili spaghetti, so I think that would be called a two-way technically.
Without the cheese.
Without the cheese. He was very lactose intolerant, so he couldn't eat the cheese.
Gaw's cookbook is dedicated in part to his father Ben, who passed away from cancer in 2014. His death pushed Gaw to question who he is. And in the book, he calls himself his father's son.
You wrote a letter to your dad in this book.
Yeah, it's essentially my coming out letter to him because I never got to come out to him before he passed. His passing was almost the catalyst for me to come out because it was the jumpstart to a lot of me figuring out my identity. And so this is kind of me just reflecting back on my dad and the foods that he would cook for me and me wanting to explain to him where I'm at now in my life today, if I could talk to him still.
A re-examination of food and family that led Gaw to embrace his identity. And food, he writes, has been at the heart of discovering both deep shame and overflowing pride.
A lot of my Asianness was suppressed. It's only been within the last few years where I've really thought through these recipes and these stories and taken the time to celebrate them.
The last plate on his table, a chewy butter mochi dessert topped with the cinnamon toast crunch cereal Gaw loved as a child.
Cheers.
Cheers, yeah.
His nostalgia focusing on the sweet and the bittersweet.
If there's anything that you could tell 8-year-old Frankie, what would you say?
Oh, I would say, don't chuck those scallion pancakes. They're gonna be your career one day. And I would just say, hey, in the end, no one's gonna care as much as you care. So you should just be yourself, and because in the end, it's not even gonna matter. It's only how it matters to you and where you wanna go. So I think that's what I would say to myself.
Words to live by. And we did bring that mochi that Frankie was talking about here. We actually have two sweet treats made by our producer, Emily D'Alessandro.
And yourself.
Thanks, Emily.
And me.
And thanks, Nancy.
She made the mochi. I also made these Rice Krispie treats. They are oolong, milk tea, and almond Rice Krispie treats. And so you finally grind the oolong tea so that it really infuses all of this. It is my first time baking for y'all, so you got to tell me what you think.
It's good. I like it.
I had a little bit
Thank
of it
you
just
for
to make
doing
sure
that,
it
by
was
the way.
okay.
I know. That's never baked for us.
And I never will. I do like, by the way, I do like the cheers, the dessert cheers.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So we-
All right,
Cheers.
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 I can't
Kind of odd, but
There we go. Cheers.
yeah.
We'll roll with it.